let's get into it. Market is still open here, closes in about half an hour, but everything is pretty much done. Just wanted to give this time to obviously, give you guys a pre-market game plan going into tomorrow, and then also explain the current market conditions. Today, I got a handful of emails. I do my best to help out, get back, break down some trades, and I'm seeing that some traders are experiencing, what you call death by a thousand cuts, and it's probably that period of you feel like you just can't get anything going. And I really want to emphasize on the market comes in seasons. So I want to take this time to kind of break down the market, break down this week, break down my current trading as of now, and pretty much all the above, right? I feel like this will help a lot of traders, help a lot of people who feel like, hey, maybe can't get something going, or you feel like every time you enter a trade, you're just getting stop outs. So first things first, starting with myself, I've been very, very good and proud of my discipline. So out of the last 5 trading days, I've only taken one trade. I've only taken one trade. It sucks. Like last week, Thursday and Friday, cash days. Uh, and that's really been my current trading right now. Is my analysis and thesis have been spot on. I just haven't gotten an entry. We'll get into that as we break down a couple of these names. So, been very happy with my discipline and my patience. Right? As I always say, one of the hardest things for beginner traders to do is show up and do nothing. You don't have to take a trade every day. If you feel like you have to take a trade every day, I don't know who told you that. That is not true. If you want to do this, guys, you got to develop patience. This is not a game, right? This is real life. This is real money that you are risking. Protect your capital. So for me, the way I see it, you guys know me. I'm not afraid to take a risk. I'm not afraid to take my shot. I believe in every shot that I take. So you got to preserve your capital, though. You can't trade without that. So cash days are green days. Cash days are winning days. Why? Because it means you followed your rules. You followed your system. If you didn't get it set up in your system, you don't take a trade. It's really that simple. But I really want to take this time to explain all that, explain the current market conditions. Hopefully this helps. Right? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So right now, right, this is SPY. This is SPY. We are just sitting at the top of the range, doing nothing. So if this week feels a little slow, well, let's take time to look at so far this week. Today's Wednesday. These are the last 3 days. Last 3 days, just sitting in between, bouncing in between 696 and 689. So far this week, that's all we've been doing. Now, SPY's a little different because, right, SPY did make all-time highs, so I do expect some selling pressure up here. But this 696.10, this is a big deal. There's no coincidence. This is 3 days in a row now. We've pushed up into this and instant rejection, right? You can see not too long ago, we pushed up into it, instant rejection. And before that, we pushed up into it, instant rejection. So this is a very key resistance level here on the SPY. Something we would want to see moving forward, and this is really part of the weekly outlook that I said, is I got to see SPY turn this channel into support. That's what we have to see here. So when you look at the overall market, we're not bearish, but we're not trending either. We're sitting at the higher time frame. We're sitting high. Obviously, the bulls are in control, but we are consolidating here. We are just sitting sideways here on the overall market. The market comes in seasons. As I always say, you got to know the pros and cons to your system. You have to. What are the cons? Channels, consolidations, and this is what it is right now. So just be cautious of that. Today, right, with a cash day for me, I'll break down what I was looking at as well coming into today and yada yada yada. But tomorrow, you will want to see SPY do either that, right? Or we can just hold this again or give this up. If we give up 689.70, you could definitely see a pullback here to 685.80. And then, of course, right, the ultimate goal is just to turn this channel into support here on SPY. QQQ. And this was something I explained to the Discord, and I'll give you guys a visual as well, because I think this will help just explain some things on when I say market comes in seasons. This is Qs right now. This is overall right now what we're looking at on Qs. You see this? The nice trendy continuation on the weekly, even to the downside. Beautiful, nice trend to the downside, even to the upside. Just beautiful, nice trend continuation. And now this is what we're dealing with, right? That's what the market's doing. So you got to understand that. You're either waiting, as I teach you, consolidation, next leg higher, or our next leg lower here on the Qs. It's one or the other. It's one or the other. So right now, it's very important. That's why I always say, when in doubt, zoom out. We don't have this. Right? That's not what we're looking at right now. This nice, beautiful trend to the upside. This is what we're dealing with. Just that. So just keep in mind, Qs is in a range and it's chopping on the weekly time frame. So of course, the more we zoom in, it's just going to look worse. So right now, what we're seeing here on the Qs, as I always say, you want to see a channel turn into support or into resistance. So for the longest, Qs have really been consolidated in between 629 and 617. You want to see that turn into support or turn into resistance. So what are we seeing here right now on the Qs? Well, we got that breakout, we pulled back, and now we're retesting that. You can see that. So the last 3 days, just like I showed you on the SPY, this has been Qs rejecting this 617.20. Right, 3 days in a row now, so far this week. Again, this week really done nothing, just sitting in between previous day highs and previous day low, and we're in a channel. So that's something to keep in mind here. So coming into today, there were some plays that I were looking at, but I'm not going to go long on a name when the overall market is just tanking, right? Context matters. That's why I teach you. You got to know the difference between skipping a trade and missing a trade. So you can see pre-market, and I thought, red folder news we had at 5:30 a.m. my time was really good. I mean, you can see, right, very strong buyers here during the pre-market. instant rejection, just slapped in the face to the downside. We went from 617, basically back down to 606. So this shows you how strong sellers are just sitting up here at the 617.20. And then, right, yesterday was another day where we just didn't do anything. Right, just in between the previous day high and the previous day low, we just sat in here all day. Today I said, hey, if we can reject the 617.20, we could definitely see some downside. And if we get under 613.20, we can definitely see us melt to the downside. And that's exactly what happened coming into today. So really just nothing going on here. I just really want to specify that, explain this to you guys. So going into tomorrow, right, Q's actually had a bigger range today, right, compared to yesterday at least. So going into tomorrow, right, you would want to see us at least get out of this, because if not, now we're just also in a channel, but then we're also still in between the previous day high and the previous day low. So tomorrow you would want to see a break and retest over this. Obviously, right, just being over the previous day high, we could see some continuation higher. If we see that, you can definitely see some downside. You could definitely see a pullback to 613.20. I'm sorry, 613.20, and then of course, right, if we give this up, we can definitely see some downside here to this previous day low and to 606.50. So we got to get out of this range over 617.20 here on the Qs. But today, just another range day. And then NVIDIA. So great example here on NVIDIA. I'll explain the pre-market plan for this as well. So like I said, it's been fairly slow for me, been sitting on my hands, and my analysis and thesis have been spot on. I just have not been able to get an entry. So great example, right? I was looking at, NVIDIA this day. I got the breakout here. I said great confluence. We're over the previous day high, which means price is likely to continue higher. We're going to break and retest over 178. I love this. If this sets up, we just rocket it to the upside. No retest. On Monday, this thing was just so strong. We didn't have a single down close candle on the 2-minute time frame up until 192.95. So this thing's just been on a complete rocket. I just have not been able to get an entry. If you've been with me for a while, I've explained this before, and sometimes you get the break and retest over during the pre-market, but you just don't get it on the intraday. So you got the break here, good displacement, retest, we open, we rocket to the upside, right? You just get it without you. It's a key level here being respected. This thing just rocketed to the upside. Even on Monday, I was looking at this to try and catch this over the previous day high. And this thing was just so strong, you just never got a retest. Like I said, not a single down close candle here on NVIDIA. Let me scoot over here. Today's Wednesday. Look at that. 2-minute time frame, just straight upside. Never got an entry. So that's just what it's been right now. Been very safe here on NVIDIA. There's just been no setups. You can see we're consolidating here after that big rally. So ever since then, right, we're just bouncing in between pretty much 192. We are in a channel here on NVIDIA. Before I break this down for you, I'll even zoom out here just to give you a visual, just like I did on QQQ. All right, look at this. Got to understand what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with this nice trend, beautiful upside on the weekly. This is what we're dealing with. Got to keep that in mind. See, this is what I mean when I say, all right, there's seasons in the market. Right now, we're not trending higher. We're not trending lower. We're pretty neutral here on NVIDIA, but we are in a range on the weekly time frame. There's no denying that. So as of right now, where NVIDIA is sitting, it's stuck in a channel, obviously, but it's also sitting between 192 and 183. It's just been playing ping pong here. So I've been trying to catch this name on NVIDIA, and you can see every time we're at 192, we pull back down to 183. We get over 183, we push back up to 192. So it's just playing ping pong in between the range here. Now, this is just for me on NVIDIA. I'm not touching this name on the long side until we get over 195.60. I'll explain why. Because there are I know a lot of people have been getting hurt up here trying to long this name. There's so many traps. It's not a coincidence. Look at this. Every single time we push up into 192, there's just sellers sitting up here very aggressively. Very, very aggressively. So the only way I look to go long is over 195.60, knowing that we have cleared all this. And guess what's in its way to the upside? Nothing. To me, it just doesn't make sense to go long off of 192 into this heavy resistance area where I know I can clearly see all the evidence of sellers just sitting up here. So it's a lot of traps up here. Even today, right? You may say, okay, well, we're over the previous day high. Maybe I can look for something like that. As soon as we do, we reject 192 and pull all the way back down to 188, right? No denying that. This is 3 days in a row now. 3 days in a row. We push up to 192 and we just get smacked. Last time we were up here, smacked us down here. Last time we were up here, smacked us down here. So be very, very careful. Trying to long up here. Very, very careful. Your safest bet would be a break and retest over 195.60. That's your safest bet. So today, my game plan on NVIDIA was actually looking to short under this previous day low if we can stay heavy. Why? Because I'm playing the continuation here to the downside. Every time we're at the top of the range, we get to the top, to the bottom. Every time we're at the bottom, we get to the top. So we're just playing ping pong here. I'm not really a reversal trader, so I'm just looking for the continuation here. But it's an objective play, right? We're playing the continuation pullback to 183.70. Obviously, that did not set up today. So going into tomorrow, you want to be very careful. You want to be very, very careful. If you're looking for a previous day high or a long over 192, be careful because there's a lot of sellers sitting up here. There are a lot of traders that have been getting hurt trying to long up here. You can see it's been a very long time since we've been over 195 here on NVIDIA. So I would just be very cautious of that. I'm very open, like I said. to under, a previous day low here, because I'm playing the rejection from the top of the range to the bottom of the range, and then my entry point would just be the previous day low continuation down to 183.70. So I hope that makes sense there on NVIDIA. But like I just showed you, this is another name that's just in a range, in a channel, and this is what it's been doing so far this week, just sitting sideways and consolidating. Tesla. So Tesla, I've been trying to catch this name too. Last week, analysis, that's pretty much been the story. Has been spot on. I just have not been able to get a retest here. So you can see here, on Monday I was looking at this, right? This was a pre-market game plan, long or short off of 415. We ended up breaking that. Look at that. Not a single pullback here, just straight upside. We ripped through that resistance, also over the previous day high, which means price is likely to continue higher. Now I know over 415, I'm more so bullish bias on this name. You can see we are stair stepping higher here. We are trending higher. Pretty much had this, and then we're starting to see a V-shaped recovery. On the weekly and the daily, we still are bearish on the higher time frame, but a lot of these tech names pulled back, held a weekly level, and they bounced. So, 415.40 is still the main play here on Tesla. Support, support, support. We broke that, turned it into resistance. We got the breakout here on Monday. We still have to pull back and turn this back into support. And then, right, that would still be our stair step higher here to the upside on Tesla. And I love it because it's also at the bottom of the range, but also another name that's just consolidated. So that's just something to be mindful of. Even yesterday on Tesla, which is crazy because I'm looking for the continuation. Yesterday on Tesla, I was even looking for, I'm sorry, it would be, what day would this be? Is this a, yeah, even yesterday on Tesla, I was even looking for a continuation here off the bounce because as you can see here, like I said, we broke this, we never got the retest. So I was looking for, okay, can I get a break and retest here over the previous day high just to look for continuation like as a scalp? And look at the price action. I ended up just skipping this trade just because it wasn't worth the risk. And it was a good skip. I know a lot of people got diced up yesterday in this, and that's kind of been the conditions as well. Your thesis and analysis has been correct, but just due to the conditions or the market sitting in a channel or crappy price action, you're just getting stopped out of your plays, or the theta's just, eating you alive. But, right, nothing setting up here on Tesla. Today was another cash day on Tesla. And I was actually looking for Tesla today, shorting under this previous day high. Tesla was on my close watch list just because it was a name out of all the tech names that actually had the most relative strength in the pre-market. So I liked it. And you can see here, you got that big breakout over the previous day high, just never a retest. So I was looking for Tesla, a short off of the previous day high, looking for the pullback to my 415 key level. And kind of been the story here. You get the breakout. I didn't get enough displacement here. For me, that's just not enough displacement. And then we just melted to the downside. So there's just been no entry points, at least for me. Even this week, I've been more so focused on the 1 minute time frame just to get a precision, entry. Because sometimes in the 2 minute, you'll get the breakout, you won't get the retest, but it's the same thing on the 1 minute. Hope that makes sense. So, but even here on Tesla, I'll zoom out here for you guys. This is Tesla, right? This is Tesla. You see what I'm pointing out here? QQQ, SPY, NVIDIA, AMD. We'll get to AMD. A lot of these names, this is Tesla on the weekly time frame. It's not this. Beautiful trend upside, even to the downside, just beautiful, right? This is Tesla right now, just in a channel. So this is something to be very mindful of on a lot of these names. I just really want to explain to you guys and give you guys a visual of what we're dealing with right now. So for me on Tesla, the more conservative play here, I'm pretty much hands off because today had such a big day. If you take a break and retest off the previous day high going into tomorrow, you're pretty much just playing this dead smack in the middle of the range. I'll zoom out here on the 1 hour. See what I mean? Like, you don't want to be in that. Now you're just playing dead smack in the middle of the range. So it had a pretty big movement today. I wouldn't be surprised if we just chopped around tomorrow. So the key level I'm looking for here on Tesla is off this 415. We still need to retest this. We broke it on Monday. We still need to retest this to turn it to support. And then, of course, if we break under that, you can definitely look just short under that just because we still are bearish on the weekly and on the daily. You can see so far it's definitely trying to recover here on the daily. But after we made all-time highs, we've just been pulling back. And every pop has been getting shorted on this name, just making lower lows. So you can clearly see that here on the daily. Today, we tried to pop up. Seller stepped up very aggressively. So just be cautious on Tesla because now you are sitting dead smack in the middle of the range. AMD. So the game plan on AMD, and I'll show you AMD. This is just what it's been doing. You had a big breakout here. On my game plan coming into Monday was a pullback long or short off of 203. I got the pullback, just not deep enough, right? Analysis spot on. Thesis is spot on. Just no entry. That's pretty much what it's been, at least for me. And as you can see, after we just had such a big day on Monday, we've just been sitting sideways here. Actually, AMD had 3 solid days of price action, right? Trend to the downside, trend to the upside, trend to the upside. So Friday, Monday, and then, Friday, Monday, and then the last 2 days, we've just been sitting sideways. So the game plan here for me on AMD, I love this here, is because another name that's just been playing ping pong. 225, 203. Every time we hold 203, we push back up to 225. Every time we get up to 225, we reject, pull back down to 203. We reject, pull back down to 203. So we held 203. We're just looking for the continuation here back up to 225. What I also love about this is a daily gap fill. This is a gap fill play. So we're playing the continuation off the 203 hold. I love the confluence here. You can see 3 days in a row. If we projected to 218.60, pretty much a peak and fell, and just been stuck in this range. So another name that's also just sitting in a channel, stuck in a range. But the big play here on AMD is this gap fill play. This is the A+ shot. I'm looking for this. Break and retest over this, targeting. This is really the next level of liquidity because we gapped up, and it's a gap fill play. So we can expect price to gravitate up into 225 because we held 203. Hope that makes sense there. And even today, right, this was on my close watch list. I did really good today. Avoiding a fake out. This overall market was pulling back very, very heavy. Qs and SPY was at the top of the range, pulling back. I ended up calling this out, saying what contracts I was looking at, and I skipped the trade. It just wasn't worth it. And this is why I always say displacement is very important, and you got to read the market because this looks good, right? It looks, okay, we're over the previous day high. We ended up having a morning dip. We just broke above the high day. You see the break. You see this hammer stick candle. This looks good for the more upside. But why did I skip this trade? I didn't get enough displacement in QQQ and SPY, which is rejecting the top of the range. And as you can see, it was a peak and fail. Maybe some people tried to take this and they just got smacked. And that just led to the downside here. So that's pretty much just what it's been. I'll go here on the weekly on AMD. And you can see, we're not bearish, but we're not trending. We're clearly just sitting in a range right now between 225 and 203. So pretty neutral here on AMD. But the main play here that I'm looking for is really over this 618. Yeah, that's the main play here. Today, the overall market was very, very heavy, so I even looked to pivot on the intraday and look for a break and retest under the previous day low, playing the pullback down to 203. And you can see it's set up, good displacement. I didn't get a deep enough pullback on the retest. As I said, guys, I'm a risk manager before I'm a trader. You got to let your stop loss be up here. So that's pretty big risk, but you could have targeted to swing low and got that. I just skipped the trade because I didn't get a deep enough pullback on the retest. So that's pretty much what it's been for me, at least. I'm hoping these things are making sense. So going into tomorrow, same game plan as it was today. You can see we're just sitting sideways right now. Same game plan as it was today. If we can get a break and retest over 218.60, we can definitely see 225, and we're filling the gap, and we're playing the bounce off of 203. You can see, right, we've been moving higher, right? Continuation, consolidation, next leg higher. So we're waiting to turn this range into support, and then we could definitely see 225 and hopefully fill this gap. Apple. So Apple analysis, thesis has been spot on. This is probably one of the names you don't want to short this name, right? This is not a bearish name. You can see we've been holding 273.40 beautifully on the dot, and it's just consolidating. A lot of these names are consolidating. All you got to do is look left. What did it do last time we were in between 280 and 273? We consolidated. History likes to repeat itself. So right now on Apple, right, the best shot is bottom of the range before we get to the top. That's exactly what happened. You can see the last 2 days we held 273, and today we made it to the top of the range. Very simple there. The more conservative play here on Apple, if you want this, is just wait for the range break. 280.40, nothing in its way to all-time highs. But as you can see, I mean, this is not a name, right? We're still stepping higher. It's not a bearish name. It looks really, really good. Just the price action's been pretty crappy. I would say I think it's been 6 days. We've just been sitting in between 280 and 273. You can see on the dot, we push all the way up into 280.40, and sellers are just sitting here pushing this thing down. Let's go here on the intraday. Look at that. Ends up, actually having a lot of relative strength compared to the overall market. You're over the previous day high. Looking for maybe if you want to look for that for continuation. Price action is just not that good, right? Look at that, but it did hold on a technical standpoint, and you got that push up from bottom of the range to the top of the range. It's just been the price action, and it's sitting in a channel. So this is a good name. If you want to take a trade on this name, I would wait for either a pullback long off of 273.40 or a break and retest over 280.40. If you want the more conservative rate, you can just wait for the range break here over 280.40 on Apple. Amazon. So Amazon's been on my close watch list as well, and another name that's pretty much just sitting in a channel. You can see here, it was giving us some clean price action. We gapped down. This is a big gap down from earnings. And what do you notice here on Amazon? Just doing this. Just sitting in a range, right? Just sitting sideways. It hasn't done anything. It's just sitting sideways. So for me on Amazon, my game plan coming into today, which was the same game plan yesterday and Monday, same thing as AMD here actually, due to that earnings drop. A break and retest over 212.60. It's a range break and it's a gap fill. And it's a gap fill play. This looks really, really good. Or it was a pullback long or short under 205.30. And this was another trade that I ended up skipping. I actually sat around a little bit longer today to about 9 a.m. And I want to show you guys what I mean when I say, your thesis is right, your analysis is right, but the timing and just where the market is sitting. So you can see here, we're also under the previous day low at this point on Amazon, which means price is likely to continue lower. The overall market is pulling back, so you're not really necessarily looking for longs here. You're looking for the range break, which would be under 205.30. The thesis here for me is, hey, we can get under 205.30, which is a weekly level. We can see some downside here. And right, it was correct. 205, lower day, 202. That's a great trade if you're able to catch that. But this is what I mean. You see here, this is pretty much your, at this point, I would say, yeah, pretty much your lower day here. So you're looking for the trade. right? You get that lower day bounce, okay, you're not intrigued. You get it again, you get the lower day bounce, you're not intrigued. Um, right now we break through the lower day, now you're intrigued because if price breaks through the lower day, it's more likely to continue lower. So what are you looking for? Now you're looking for the retest. You get a beautiful retest here. That's really the candle you want to see. That's the candle you want to see to take your shot targeting this lower day. You get stopped out. You get stopped out, it ends up setting up again. But your thesis is correct. But right, just skipping these trades just due to the market conditions. Hope this makes sense, right? Just so this is why it's very important to know what does it mean to miss a trade and skip a trade. As I always say, skipping a trade just means it's not worth the risk, right? Context does matter. It really does. If the overall market is pushing into a weekly resistance level like today on QQQ and SPY, I'm not really going to look to go long on some of these names. Today I had a good setup on Microsoft, but I skipped that trade to the upside. Why? Because the overall market was pulling back too heavy, and so was Microsoft. So it just wasn't worth the risk to me. So going into tomorrow, we'll see what sets up here on Amazon. This is really the main play I'm looking for, this gap fill over 212.60. Another name that we're pretty much just in a channel on. Look at this on the weekly. If we can stay heavier, we would be breaking outside of this range on the weekly, so it does look good to the downside if that sets up. But you can see so far this week, really done nothing. So going into tomorrow, if you want, you can look for a long over 205.30, targeting the top of this range. You can see every time, we've gotten down here, we have held and pushed up to 612.60. Or, right, you can look for a pop and fade off of this, targeting 202. On the higher time frame, you are bearish. So if the market wants to stay heavy, you can see it's a key level being respected. You can look for a pop and fade off of that. You can look for a short under the previous day low, targeting this 200. However you want to play it. But if you really want to play this name, I would just be cautious because it's just sitting in a range. It's just sitting in a range here. We're just sitting sideways here on Amazon. So that's just something to be mindful of. Be cautious. I really like this range. I'm sorry, this gap fill play though, over 212.60. I don't think I'll get that tomorrow. It is Thursday. You won't know until you know. But if you're favoring upside, 205.30, look to target 212. The higher time frame, the weekly and the daily is intact. To the downside, the bears are in control in the higher time frame. So if you want to play like a pop and fade off of this weekly 205 to 200, that's a good shot too. You can see here, right, liquidity down here, so we can expect this thing to move lower. And if it sets up tomorrow, it's really a good shot. Really just for now, like some continuation lower. Because you can see, right, that would just be a lower low setting up, targeting this 200. So that's a good shot there on Amazon if you want that. And lastly, Microsoft. So today was a day on Microsoft where kind of just been the story here. Right, ended up, actually, I'm going to zoom out here on Microsoft on the 30-minute. So the analysis on Microsoft has been spot on. This has been on my close watch list for 2 days. I just have not gotten a retest. So what was I looking for here on Microsoft? You can see support, support, support. We broke it. We turned it into resistance. Yesterday, right after we turned this back into support, we got that push. We rejected, right? 422, back down to 401. Just trusting your key levels, know what you're looking for. But what I was looking for today was, okay, this is support. This is support. We turn it into resistance. We got the breakout on Monday. We got to retest this to turn it back into support. You can see a lot of these names, we're trying to have some V-shaped recoveries. Right now, Microsoft is pretty much making this lower low. It's very bearish on the daily and on the weekly. The bears are 100% in control here on Microsoft. So today, I ended up skipping this trade. It was a pullback long off of 408 or a break and retest under this. If we can hold this, we're just turning this key level back into support, and we can see 422. And then, of course, right, if we got over 422, which is also a good correlation with the previous day high, we could definitely see 439. So beautiful, but market's too heavy. So why did I not take this, even though I saw a buyer step up? Context, right? I'm not going to take that if the market's tanking. So I just want to break that down. That was like my game plan coming into today. And then, right, the game plan as well was also, hey, I'm looking at short under this if this sets up. This is the previous day low. I'm sorry, this is the lower day. This is like really the first real displacement. That now I'm just looking for that. I can see, if you look here, not a single up close candle. We are very heavy. This actually had relative weakness compared to the market. So you can see here, the game plan was a pullback long, but even though buyer stepped up here, I'm not going to take this shot just because we're so heavy to the downside. We're under the previous day low. So that was that. And then it's pretty much been the story for me. I'll get a good analysis. My thesis is right. I'll get the breakout, good displacement here. I just never got a retest. And you can see, right, what's the thesis here? If we get under 408, we can see 401. And as soon as we did, we made our way down to 401. So hope this helps, guys. If things been a little slow, it's not just you. That's a good thing. Preserve your capital. Oh, sorry. The game plan for tomorrow on Microsoft, which actually looks really, really good. You can see we actually pulled back here. And this is just key levels. The bell's going to go off here in a sec, so just be cautious of that. Resistance, we turn it to support. Support. Tomorrow, man, if that sets up, this looks really good. If this market wants to stay heavy, QQQ and SPY wants to continue to pull back, that is beautiful. To the downside, you're also under the previous day low. We are bearish on the higher time frame. You can see that would just be lower lows. That is a nice setup here, right? Support, 2 days in a row, we'll be giving that up, turning it back into resistance here. So that's the game plan tomorrow on Microsoft, which is a break and retest under 40125. I love the confluence here. It's a weekly level and the previous day low. So I hope this helped, guys. I appreciate the love, support. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next